Go ahead, Dipchand.
Hello and welcome to Open Up Live Talk Show. My name is Dipchand Ramcharitar and I'm the Outreach and Development Coordinator at Voice of Men 360. Today we have a very special guest, Jim McKenzie, who is the founder of High Achieving Dads USA. Before we get to Jim, I have some information regarding Voice of Men 360. So Voice of Men 360 is a non-profit organization founded in 2020 and is based in London, Ontario, Canada. Voice of Men 360 was born out of seeing a tremendous need and stepping up to provide services to help, support, and overcome men and boys' life challenges. We are part of International Men's Day. International Men's Day has been serving for over 21 years, and so far 90 countries around the world joined together and doing various activities regularly. International Men's Day follows 6 pillars, which is the overall well-being of men and boys. We follow in the same footsteps. Why open up, you may ask? Well, because men do not open up their hearts and are not willing to share their matters with anyone. When we keep our emotional challenges within ourselves for a longer time, at some point, they will explode and it will affect our health conditions in many ways. That is why we want to create an open space and allow an individual to share their life journey through our platform. We aim to create awareness about life challenges, struggles, overcome ups and downs that our boys and men go through their lives. There are no limitations regarding gender, age, nationality, or ethnic groups, and in sharing your life journey, all walks of life can participate. Our goal is to make a positive impact on someone's life through this program. Open Up is usually on Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We bring an individual to each show and let them share their life experiences with you. Before I introduce our special guest for today, I would like to go through our disclaimer. We would like to remind you that Voice of Men 360's mission is always delivered with good faith towards peaceful harmony. The views and opinions expressed in today's episode are those of our speakers and do not necessarily represent Voice of Men 360. Our organization engages in discussion forums to offer inspiration and create awareness of these issues of men who wish to overcome their life challenges. We are not providing medical or therapeutic advice. Should we require that type of assistance, we recommend you contact a medical professional immediately. If you have any questions or concerns about today's episode or any Voice of Men 360 content, please email us at info@voiceofmen360.org. So without further ado, I present to you today's speaker, Jim McKenzie. Jim, the floor is yours.
The show. I love the message and the movement that you have in Voice of Men 360, and I'm very, very keen to be on board with everything that you do. So briefly about myself, I have been a child and family lawyer for 40 years. I have 7 children. I've run various businesses, and in various capacities, I've been coaching men and families for the last, officially probably for about 15 years. And in that process, I developed routines and strategies and things that have helped me through. I've fallen flat on many aspects of fatherhood and as a man. I've learned to deal with emotional issues, and I've been showing that pretty consistently for the last 15 years. So right now I have put everything together into a program called High Achieving Dads, which is aimed to give dads and share the skills that they need to really become the best version of themselves. And by really just by implication, the fact that they would be passing those skills on to the boys, the next generation of fathers. And so I'm very excited to have the opportunity to speak to your audience to share the let's say the twisting journey that I've had through as a man and as a father.
Excellent. Well, you certainly have been through a lot, and I think your experience have certainly wisened you up, and you come well equipped to lend a super voice to this presentation. So we certainly appreciate that. So using your own, was there a particular event or realization that influenced your drive towards reaching out to men and boys and other members of your community?
I think it began, I realized that my own father was a provider and gave me very little emotional support as a teen. So I feel I didn't really develop any emotional intelligence until I kind of moved away from my family in my 20s, early 20s. That was probably the trigger when I realized there was something missing. I think probably as I became a father, and the challenges that came with that. My first child was a boy, and from a very young age, I noticed things in him. Obviously, and I've dealt with literally hundreds of child and family cases. Given that double experience, that was really the kind of aha. I've got a lot to learn, and I believe that was also, I've got a very strong sense of self. And men generally will think, yeah, I know what I'm doing. I've got a handle on this. And I realized I didn't. So I think in terms of the aha moment, my son getting older and then having more children, I've got 4 boys, ranging from 26 down to 9. So there have been various triggers on the journey, and the skills and they're needed to coach them into the teen years and into young adulthood. I've had to evolve. I've had to evolve my communication skills, my emotional skills. I'm still learning on the job. And, I see in my 9-year-old in a way, kind of a more developed masculinity than my 26-year-old was at the same age. So in a way, there's kind of a test tube pipeline going on. And so I think that's really the overall, there are a number, I'd say not one aha moment, but several spread over 24 years.
Wow, you've certainly been through a lot, and it's been a sort of a give and take where you're teaching your kids and you're learning at the same time. So
Indeed.
That certainly is a good way to foster a better relationship with your loved ones and to get the ball moving forward. So that was really well done. In addition to that, what do you think are the most significant battles men face in today's society?
There are many. Over the period of my fatherhood and also through my legal career, I wouldn't still say burdens, but the roles of men have shifted in that we weren't given skills to deal with nurturing emotional vulnerability, communication by our own fathers. I've met very few men who look back and think, wow, I'm a sensitive guy because my dad taught me how to be like it. I believe over the last only maybe 5 years, has there been an open discussion about the effect that lack of emotional skills and the ability to audit what's going on in your mind has been a kind of accepted thing. It's been the object of derision. You're a soft guy. You don't have you're not tough. Just suck it up and move on. It's changed a lot, but there's a long way to go because I don't believe that there's enough support to deal with these issues. A lot of men as well are intimidated by the fact that the women movement has exploded, and they want to do the traditional jobs that men had, and we're expected to care for our children as well as be the tough guy. And for me, a tough guy is one who actually knows when he's overstepped the line in the way he's dealt with his children or his wife. And so I don't talk about parenting skills. I believe the parenting skills, the basic ones of, how to bathe a child and, how to go and play with them, that's one thing. But when things are tough, when you're under stress at work, when money is scarce, when there's a pandemic and you're with your family 24 hours a day, how do you keep the mental resilience to keep the communication going in a way that's healthy, and to not let the frustrations of not being able to express ourselves boil to the surface, because I believe that's at the root of a lot of the mental health issues which men are facing across the world. So I know I may have gone slightly sideways on the question, but I believe it comes down to our feeling that we can be emotionally vulnerable without judgment.
Yes, I agree. I think there's, as you mentioned before, with the growth of the women's movement, and I'm great for them. I'm happy to see them move forward. They have our support.
Absolutely.
But the problem, I think, sometimes it comes at the expense of men, and that's an issue, because we have the family courts issues with child custody, alimony, you name it, and that's a huge uphill battle. A lot of guys have committed suicide in the process because they can't handle it all.
Yeah.
And again, when you go back to the family life, the way how civilization is structured now, the woman has moved into the workforce. And again, it's not a criticism. It's just an acknowledgement of a fact. And it has shifted the dynamics at the home now. And sometimes the dad has to chip in at home. And generally, women are better at nurturing and men are better at disciplining. It doesn't mean that one can't substitute for the other.
Yeah.
But these are traditionally roles that have borne through time and with relative success. So that's an issue I think that men face to make that adjustment. So,
and leading on from that, I mean, parenting is a two-parent job.
Exactly.
It's not a question of whether they're married or separated or even gay parents or whatever the makeup of the family. But the fact is that men have not been prepped for the shift, and to give those skills, because traditionally women dealt with childbirth and child rearing as a community. Men would deal with functional matters, and in fact our hardwiring is to be fixers. And that's usually not to fix ourselves, but to think if something's broken, I'm going to fix it. And then if something is wrong with ourselves, it's like, well, I can move past that because I can fix myself. And so I think I see that as being a major problem right now, in that, the support, men's issues are not taken as seriously, either in terms of medical care, mental health, paternity, child courts. They're not taken as seriously. If a guy wants to take a day off to look after a sick kid, most employers are really unsympathetic. And that has to change, and we have to have the tools to deal with that and to stand up in a, it's not, I don't know, it's the opposite of whatever a feminist is, to be a masculinist, and to say, well, I can balance actually being a strong guy with caring for my family in a way that is beyond me, fixing the car and painting the house, but to actually be the one who the child comes to when they're hurt. And I know initially that was one thing with my first child. I thought, God, it always goes to mum. My daughter comes along, I've developed better skills, and I was a go-to parent. And so, it speaks for itself, the 50-50, however the makeup of the family. And there are so many alienated fathers, like you alluded to, who are just completely frustrated by the system. And if we have better skills, if a man can go to court and express to a judge, and I've done this, I've coached clients who are looking at custody, and to say, well, look, this is why I need joint custody, because I can bring this to the table. I know how that child will react at 4 o'clock in the morning. And to win the judges over that way, because the judges are hardwired as well.
Yes.
To actually be pretty unsympathetic to the man and say, well, and really, whether it comes to money, the only one who can be punished by denying custody because alimony is not paid is the child. Yeah.
So on that point, and I'm obviously not an expert, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just going by the facts.
Neither are many lawyers.
True. I'm just going by the facts that are out there. And what is baffling is, in terms of child custody, which I've noticed that in recent time, there is something called shared parenting now. it's no longer referred to as custody. But to me, what is baffling is statistically, a child in a single mother's home is at every statistical disadvantage.
Yes.
Like you have teenage prostitution, incarceration, drug use, you name it, and yet the woman, the wife, the mother gets custody of the child in so many cases as opposed to the dad. And to me, if you have all these negative factors against single motherhood, I do not understand, and I'm obviously missing something here, why it continues to be that the mother keeps getting the child most of the time.
Yeah, and again, I think it comes down to preconception of men not being babysitters, not carers. I see I've been out myself with sort of 4 of my kids, and I'll get women, or sometimes men, come over and say, "Oh, is mum sick today?" And I'm looking after them. I've worked from home with bringing up the children with them on my lap, and breaking off from seeing clients. And sometimes I saw clients with the baby on my lap. And I thought, if I doesn't like that, I do not care, because if anything, I think it should be better reason to trust me, really, if I'm looking after a baby and looking after you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's a very sad fact that we have a way to go, and I do believe that seeing us as more than just the fixers, more than just the I'm going to tell your dad when you get in.
Yeah.
If a child's been naughty, teaching them to discipline with compassion and with learning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, oh, your father said so. It doesn't work.
Yeah. So, in addition to the fact that single mothers have, with respect to rearing kids, they have it's got so much negativity attached to it. I don't have the statistical data, but single fathers are on par with 2-parent household in terms of the correct upbringing of a child. So that's another reason why I do not understand why more single fathers, or more dads rather, are given a fair deal in terms of raising the child. Yeah. So
and I think it really looks back to the sort of stigma that dad is a carer, is not a carer, but is a babysitter.
Yeah, well, as you said before, things got to change. We got to change. So I think it has to go as far as legislation to get this done. Yes. I mean, if you and I, it's great that we can have this discussion. We can try to get the message out there, but in effect, it has to be from a legislative standpoint to mean anything really in the end.
Yeah. And, this is the criticism I have of men that, we'll go to the gym so he can, bench press 200 pounds, go to the game, have shoot pool. But when it comes to learning those skills that can really get you ahead, particularly where you have a troubled relationship with God's mother, they won't put in the work. They don't see that as having value. And that's been the biggest struggle that I've had over the years. And then when I've finished coaching guys, they say, well, I wish I'd done this 10 years ago.
Right.
Simply because, they haven't been wired to think, I need to work on my mindset. And women have support like that because that's been the tradition. They were, the oppressed part of the population. They work together and they've risen together. And there's still this division with men who are just like, I'm a macho guy, I don't need that. And if you're crying, well, what a crybaby. I mean, I saw a Facebook group post the other week that almost brought me to tears because this poor guy was saying, I just feel like I want to cry all the time. Should I? And the vitriol that was spilled on him. I mean, the poor guy. I mean, fortunately, there was also a lot of support of saying, well, why can't we feel like that? We can be emotional. Because we're emotional doesn't mean that we're going to suddenly go crazy and get a baseball bat and start hitting people. It means that we have repressed feelings and frustration and fear.
Yeah, I think men are caught between a rock and a hard place because on one hand, you're told that you don't open up. And when you do open up, you're seen as weak.
Yeah.
So it's an uphill battle. But I think the better thing, obviously, is to open up and face whatever criticisms you have.
Yeah.
But, even if it's to open up to your buddies, if you can't, that as in a sort of a confidant, like you have a confidant,
Yeah.
that might help to some extent.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen statistics that 1 in 10 men suffers loneliness.
Yes.
I think 32% can't really say they've got a best friend, and that often hits in when they're about 30, 35, because they get estranged from their buddies because they're having families, and I think as many as I think it's 40%. The statistic was right. Literally just suffer in silence, and they actually feel lonely.
Yeah, and I think there are a lack of connection, because I heard this. So again, and I don't have proof of this, but I heard that 1 in every 3, or rather about 30% of men under the age of 30, for the last year, are either a virgin or haven't had sex in the
Yeah.
last. So I mean, like it's a huge problem with men and relationships.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's a learning curve, that, and I'm nearly 64 years old, and I'm learning.
yeah, I
You know,
I hear you, and we all
I
have to continue
yeah,
learning.
yeah, and it's a message I give to my sons and to their friends, and say, listen, just because you don't get it right, it doesn't mean that you're not on the right journey. Because,
Exactly.
but if you're given the tools to know that at least you are trying,
Right.
I say you can't run a 4-minute mile with one practice,
Right.
Um,
Exactly.
and so guys, but a lot of guys are giving up and despairing because they don't know where to look for help.
Right. True. So true. So on that note, let's move on. So I've got using your own as well as others' experiences. How do you see boys' lives shaping up towards adulthood? And do
Cool.
you have any recommendations on areas of concern?
Yeah. My own experience, which I alluded to earlier, was that I didn't really know what was going on in here, apart from the fact that I felt really alienated from my father. I was confident with my buddies, but I didn't have the ability. When I was in an unfamiliar place, I didn't know how to react. And I think it came from the fact that I had a very domineering mother and father who just be quiet. And I was a good kid, so I stayed quiet. Obviously, as you've noticed, I've found my voice. But I think that was the biggest experience, that I just literally, I did not know how to open up emotionally. I think these days, I am concerned. My girls talk about the boys they know, and I think, whoa, this is just the way they talk. They're talking to a girl they like, and they're saying this stuff. Who's giving these guys guidance? And my girls, obviously, they've been brought up with standards, and my boys are they've been taught to be very well spoken, but also to be sensitive to other people, and particularly to girls. And the dialogue is lacking. And so I think at the moment we've got these boys, and you're seeing more and more of these sort of school shooters who literally they're women haters at a very young age. They're frustrated. They don't feel seen. And the one of the shootings was just even tragically. He lived in a very, very comfortable household. Had all the facilities, and his parents bought him guns because he asked for them.
Wow.
The kid, I mean, it's difficult to, obviously it's a horrible mass shooting, and you think, but you can see how it happens, and you can feel some empathy for the kid, because really he didn't stand a chance.
Right.
Any more than the poor children who end up shooting, and so this is why I believe we're getting more and more of these frustrated boys, and with social media, the nuances of things they have to deal with are way more complicated than what you and I had to.
Right.
We might hear something in a playground, or if we're at college, across a lecture hall. But really, the only scandal really ill speak was a newspaper.
Right.
But the merest whim is just used to basically persecute the crap out of these poor boys.
Yeah.
And my recommendations, I believe, are that we have to make parents accountable to learn the skills to deal with this. I think women are more sensitive to it right now. The men have a long way to go forward and learn these skills to protect those boys and give them the skills to go forward to be positive men in their own right. Because I think many of them are be given false images of what they should be day in, day out. They scroll the phone there, I should be like this, I should be like that. And so those standards are, as men and to other men and as dads to our boys, they need to be better. And the only way we can do that is education. And
I agree.
willingness to learn.
Yes,
And
I agree 100%. You're certainly right about that. And I think social media, it can be very, very cruel to these what they're termed incels. And no one is going to condone what they do in terms of the mass shootings and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I think definitely some attention should be paid to see how they can be helped. I think that's very important.
Yeah, and male politicians in particular have a very large role to play in this, because they spout hate and they stir and say, listen, buddy, they get groomed by these groups,
right?
Who the reason that these boys are buying into it is they feel seen by these horrible sort of terrorists, basically.
Yes,
who are saying to them, listen, buddy, I understand your pain, I understand why you're frustrated. You see people who are different than you, people your age.
Right.
And it's your fault their fault that you're like this.
Yeah, it's tragic. We got to move on. Time is getting on us.
Okay.
So can you tell us about any current activities, programs, etc., that you've initiated or are involved in otherwise that gear towards the upliftment of men and boys and other members of the community?
Yes. Well, I have a program which is, there are two basically: High Achieving Dads and Beat the Burnout.
Right.
High Achieving Dads is really geared towards giving busy working dads the skills to actually prioritize their time, be able to juggle fatherhood, work, life, career, and for the communication skills and emotional skills in order to be a well-rounded father. The other program is more Beat the Burnout is kind of based on stress. Again, the foundation of both programs is really how to prioritize your time and how to zero in on really the skills that you need in fatherhood. Time, I believe, equals stress, equals real ill mental health, and then physical health. So the High Achieving Dads program is really a whole concoction of everything that I've taught in my entire time on the planet. And as a father, and it deals with male issues in the sense that unusual male issues in the sense that it's very much geared towards auditing mental state before you even deal with the practical things.
Exactly. So, sorry. Go ahead. So go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, and again, it comes back to the dovetailing with what you do at Open Up, which is really. Open up. The programs are very much geared, they're very practical to teach men in group coaching online. I do a lot of one-to-one coaching, but I want to blow this mission up into a big community of men who are trying to learn these skills. So that's what I do. It's a very, very geared to the needs, those basic needs of finding out what's in here.
Right. Well, you certainly have a wonderful drive and passion, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
I think we have time for one more question, but before we do, I have some information about our group. So if you want to be a guest on any one of our shows or willing to be part of our organization and help us directly or indirectly, please reach out to us. There are no limitations to gender, age, nationality, or ethnic groups. All walks of life can participate in any of our shows. We would love to work with individuals, professionals, experts, community organizations, associations, corporations, government officials, and businesses. Our phone number is 437-889-8329, and our email address info@voiceofmen360.org. And our website is www.voiceofmen360.org. You can find us on all of the social media as well. Facebook group/page. Join our group so you can see our daily activities. Please invite your friends as well. Other social media platforms are Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Voice of Men 360. We want to reach out to more people and help more. Please continue your support. Thank you. So, Jim, a final question here as we wrap up.
Yes.
Why do you think it's important for men to open up?
Multitude of reasons, which I could probably need another 2 hours to go through.
I can imagine.
If you want to get to your best life, it's important that you understand how you want to live. It's important to understand the things that trigger you, the things that make you feel good, and to learn how to communicate it to others in a positive way, particularly boys, loved ones. That's the foundation of a great life, and I want to help as many people as possible to have a great life, however you choose to live it. And as men, as fathers, we owe it to the next generation to be the example that we would love them to be. That's it in a nutshell.
Wow, that's a lot yet, but again, it's very important that people understand this. It's there's a lot out there that men and boys can benefit from, but we have to get the message out there to the public and get more and more people involved. Well, Jim, I want to thank you very much. We have been talking to Jim McKenzie, founder of High Achievement Dads USA. This has been an enthralling session. There's a lot of valuable information was shared, and we certainly appreciate your input, Jim. And again, all the best in your future endeavors. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and I hope you'll reach out to me at High Achieving Dads, all the social platforms. I'm ready to chat. Just if you need to get an ear, I'm here.
Absolutely, we certainly appreciate that. So to everyone out there, good night, good evening, good morning, and thank you for joining us. This concludes our broadcast.